Hello and welcome to Buddha and the Coach, a vlog powered by Soul Performance Academy. I'm your host, Dan Mickle. The Buddha and the Coach is a weekly vlog focused on looking at the teaching of the Buddha in a coaching light. The Buddha and the Coach is proud to be sponsored by It's Called Normal Athletics. ICN Athletics makes the extraordinary ordinary through adaptive beach volleyball. Everyone should have the opportunity to enjoy and excel at this sport, and ICN offers the programs and the education to make it normal for adaptive athletes to play on any court. Help them make the beach volleyball court a place for everybody. For more information or to make a donation to the 501c3, please visit icnathletics.com. And again, thank you to John and Dave and everyone involved and all the great work that they are doing with adaptive beach volleyball and adaptive athletes in general across the globe. It's awesome stuff. Please take the time to check them out. All right, this week we are hitting lesson 20 of Buddha and the Coach. And this lesson, the Buddha says, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. And how I want to look at this in a coaching perspective is swapping out that spiritual life part and thinking about what is our drive for coaching? What is our reason for coaching? What is our spiritual life for coaching? And I think one of the things that happens in the coaching world is when we have the ebb and flows, the ups and downs of a career, and it could even be a micro cycle within a season, we tend to forget about the why. Why are we coaching? Why did we get into this in the first place? Why are we passionate about this? And I think when we start to lose sight of that is when we start to experience burnout. And ironically enough, I see almost as much burnout at the top level, successful coaches, as I do from the struggling coaches in the struggling programs. So it's not a success thing that helps dictate burnout when it comes to the coaching world. And I think a lot of it over time is because we forget our why. And I know if you've heard any of my podcasts or my blog posts or any of the other content that I've produced over the last couple of years, a big one for me, and I always come back to it, but here it is again, is our coaching philosophies. And I think if we don't take the time to figure out what is our actual coaching philosophy, that's what's going to lead us. And that's kind of what I'm replacing with this Buddha teaching. So just as a candle cannot burn without fire, coaches cannot coach without a coaching philosophy, is how I'm looking at it. And we can say, sure, my philosophy is just to be a good coach and to help kids and help grow players, but that just doesn't cut it. We need to go deeper. And the reason we have to go deeper in all this is because that's what's going to guide us when things are challenging. When we have those moments where we have challenging players, challenging administration, challenging parents, it's our coaching philosophy and our deep understanding of our why that's going to let us sleep at night, that's going to let us overcome that. And I think a lot of times we're afraid to look at that because sometimes we are in it just to win. There are coaches where their number one concern is winning, the banners, the trophies, the championships. I get that. I am not saying that that's right or wrong. That is up for you to decide. But what I am saying is decisions that you make will differ greatly if your goal is to win versus your goal is something else, like maybe, creating better character in your players. Again, not saying one is better than the other. This is a personal preference. I'm just simply saying you need to know what's driving you. You need to know what is your coaching spiritual life, because that's how you're going to act. And the conflicts that we have, the stuff that we lose sleep over at night, is usually because there's a conflict between what is at our core of why we're coaching and a situation that's challenged that. And if we really take the time to look at it, our answer should be there in that philosophy. That should be our coaching spiritual life at what's the core. And I don't care if it's administration, coaching, playing, parenting. We should all have philosophies for all those aspects. And they may not even line up. As a parent, my parenting philosophy is probably a little bit different than what my coaching philosophy is, because the lessons I'm trying to teach and what I'm doing are different. There's a lot that they share, absolutely. But they're not the same. And I think too many times we just assume I'm a good person. This is how I'm going to do things. This is how I handle it. But if you don't take the time to really look at yourself and look at what's driving you, you are going to burn out. It's going to be stressful and it's going to be tough at times because you're always going to be in conflict between what you know is right and what you're doing if they're not in alignment. And the other part about these philosophies are they change. My coaching philosophy when I started in the 90s is absolutely different than where I'm at in the 2020s. And there were changes in the middle of that. Where I was in the early 2000s is different than where I began and where I'm at now. It's always evolving and it's always changing. You know, a big one for me right now, and that's been a key tenet of my philosophy for the last couple of years, is I want my players to be better citizens of the world when I leave my program. And sometimes that means tough decisions. Sometimes that means moving a player from a starting role to a bench role so they can focus more on their studies and they're not getting burned out and they're not doing too much. And that's a tough conversation to have. But what it boils down to me is I want my players to leave my program and go out and do amazing things. I want my nurses to go out and save lives. I want my criminal justice majors to go out and make a difference in the justice system. I want my graphic designers to make the best art I've ever seen. I want my teaching majors to go out and become the best teachers in the world. And sometimes that comes at a cost of what they can do on the court or the commitment that they can put into everything else. But I know in the long run, that's what I want for them. Sure, I want them to have successful athletic careers. But I also want them to have exceptional lives after they're gone in my program. And I think too many times we go with the generic, I just want them to be better people. I want them to learn. I want them to be a student of the game. But what does that all mean? How do you get that? How do you show them that? For me, my coaching philosophy is huge at what I do. It's not just lip service. I just want everyone to know what they're getting when they come to play for me and my program. And I make sure that every single one of them gets it. It's one of the first things we hand recruits. I'm not secret about my coaching philosophies on my website. You can literally go to danmickle.com right now, click up on the bio or the about me, and there'll be a link there and I'll show you my current. And I revisit that every single year. And I make tweaks. The framework that I'm on now has probably been it for about 8 years, but I've tweaked it every single year. I've just tweaked a little bit of it yesterday, actually. Those are all things that I have to look at. And I think that's what we all as coaches need to, because that's what burns us out. That's what gets us in trouble. When we don't take the time to look at our why, forget the how, forget how we're training, whether we're doing block or we're doing random or we're doing skill-based or coach-based, forget about all that. Those are all important, but what we need to focus on first is the why. Why are you here? And it's okay to say, I'm here because my kid's team, when he was U12, didn't have a coach, and I became the coach, and now I've coached him the whole way through, and it's his senior year. He's done, I'm done. I'm no longer coaching anymore. That's why I did it. Some coaches are, hey, I'm here to win a national championship. I'm here to win a state championship. That's all I want to do. Again, I'm not here to judge that. But if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to be upfront about. So that people coming into your program, parents, players, administration knows this is what my focus is. And this is why I'm going to make the decisions I make. And when you have to make hard decisions, you can fall back on that philosophy and say, this is why I made this decision. It shouldn't be a secret or surprise to anyone. You knew what we were getting into. And to me, that's what Buddha is speaking about with this spiritual life aspect. It's not about a higher power or any mystic power in this sense. What I'm talking about is what is guiding you as a coach year in and year out. Because players change, programs change, teams change, administrations change, assistant, all that changes. But the core of what your philosophy is, the core of what you're doing and how you want to do it, is usually pretty steady if you take the time to look at it and make those small tweaks. Because almost every coach that I work with that struggles or gets burned out, again, whether it's being too high on the success and trying to maintain that, or going through those rough patches, almost everyone that burns out, they don't have a concrete coaching philosophy. You ask them and they say, oh yeah, I stand for this, I want that. And that's not good enough. When I meet new coaches, when I'm at a clinic, one of the first things I ask is, hey, nice to meet you. What do you coach? And then it's, what's your coaching philosophy? And you should be able to tell me the tenets of your coaching philosophy off the top of your head. Now, I'm not asking for complete recital of 8 paragraphs of what you're coaching. Just what are the main bullet points? What's the elevator pitch of your actual coaching philosophy? And not the fumbling around, well, I want to grow my players. I want them to be respectful. That's a cop-out. That's just saying the buzzwords and saying the things that people want to know. But what is your actual philosophy? What is your plan? What is the script that you follow? What is your spiritual coaching life that lets you burn as a coach and lets you shine? That's what intrigues me. I love hearing other people's whys. My siblings played. I never played, but I was just always there. And I really started to enjoy the tactical side of it. So I became a coach. Where I was never on a successful team and I really want to win a state championship in something. I want to help kids achieve the best. That's fine. Again, I'm not here to judge your why. I want to hear your why, though. I want to understand your why. And it doesn't matter. Coach, administrator, parent, player, official. We should all have philosophies for everything that we do. What's your philosophy as an official? How do you enhance the life of this game and the people that you're involved with as an official? What's your parenting philosophy? And we can have different ones. I mean, obviously, as a coach and a parent, my philosophies are different for the two. Now, there's obviously parts between the two that overlap and intermingle, but they're different enough that I have two separate. I know what my philosophies are. And when I'm struggling or I have a big decision or I have conflict, what fits the framework of my coaching philosophy? And that's the answer to the problem. It's not a list of how you're going to solve every problem, but it is the framework that should easily tell you what you need to do. If you have a conflict, I don't know whether I should start this player. They broke this rule or they're struggling here. I just don't know if I should play them. The answer's in your philosophy. The answer's in your spiritual life as a coach. Does answer A or answer B, put them into your philosophy, because that's your answer. I think, again, too many times we're just too vague. We're afraid to look at it because we're afraid to see what we see. Maybe I am the coach that's just excited about wins, and you don't want to be. That's the good thing. You can change as a coach. Again, I've changed from the 90s to the 2020s. I'm not the same coach. Vastly different. You can ask any of my players. But that's to me the best part. That's what keeps me going. That's part of my why. I have players from my very first year that I still hang out with. I've been to weddings for my players. Baby showers for my players. That's my why. I'm enhancing the world around me. That's how I feel. That's what drives me as a coach. And again, you can go to my website and you can see what my coaching philosophy is. And you can also see how it gets tweaked every year. But I think this is what we need to start with. We need to start understanding what people's philosophies are and their roles. Have your players do it. Maybe your players just want to stay in shape. Maybe your players just want to be good, solid. Maybe they want to make the national team. Because how you work and train all of those different elements is vastly different. But if you don't know exactly what your players want, that can be tough. So here's my challenge to you. For those of you that are just starting club season or just started club season, or you're getting ready to start whatever sport it is, take a day, take a practice, and work on creating a player philosophy. So you know exactly what every player wants. And how does that fit into your philosophy? Because again, that's going to show you where some of the conflicts will be. If you are about growing everyone and having a fun environment, but you have players that are winning about winning championships, that's going to be a conflict all year. So you need to look at ways that you're going to be able to resolve that, but at least you can get ahead of it because you now know what their philosophy is. We're just afraid to ask those questions at times because we don't want to hear the answers. All right, so there we have it for this week's lesson. Again, the Buddha said, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. And I am flipping that around and saying, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, coaches cannot live without a coaching why, a coaching spiritual life, a coaching philosophy. We need to know the why of why we're coaching. And we need to take the time to really look at and examine that. Because that's what's going to guide us. Whether we believe it or not, that's what's going to guide us. That's what's going to cause us conflict when we're coaching outside of the realm of what our philosophy actually is. All right, remember, you can reach me directly across all social media at Real Dan Mickle. Check out Soul Performance Academy at 717-SOUL. DanMickle.com, SoulPerformanceAcademy.com, and of course, check out, it's called Normal Athletics, ICANathletics.com. Peace, much love, don't suck, and we will see you next week for lesson 20 of Buddha and the Coach.